Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India News Hour, India's voice to the world. I'm Preeti Kaur. Coming up in the next 1 hour, India's landmark criminal laws to replace British-era acts to be tabled in Upper House of Parliament. Nation braces up for COVID-19, subvariant JN1 surge. Health Minister reviews preparedness. Houses flooded, streets waterlogged amid heavy rain in Tamil Nadu. Indian Air Force and the Navy undertake relief and rescue operations. US, South Korea, Japan call on North Korea to engage in dialogue without preconditions. Pyongyang warns of a nuclear attack.
The ICBM launch conducted by DPRK this time is a warning countermeasure in the face of the grave situation.
Let's begin by taking a look at Parliament list of business today. In Lok Sabha, that is lower house of the Parliament, Law and Justice Minister Arjun Ram Meghwal will move the Chief Election Commissioner and other election commissioners' appointment, conditions of service and term of office bill 2023 for consideration and passage. Also, Information and Broadcasting Minister Anurag Singh Thakur will move the Press and Registration of Periodicals bill 2023 for consideration and passage. Now, this bill provides the process of registration of newspapers, journals and books. In Rajya Sabha, that is Upper House of Parliament, this bill has been presented and it has already been passed. In Rajya Sabha, however, Home Minister Amit Shah will move the 3 revised criminal laws for consideration and passage. Now, these bills are the Bharatiya Nyaya Second Sanhita 2023, the Bharatiya Nagrik Suraksha Second Sanhita 2023 and the Bharatiya Sakshya Second Bill 2023 were passed by Lok Sabha on December 20th. The 3 bills replace the Indian Penal Code of 1860, Code of Criminal Procedure of 1973 and Indian Evidence Act of 1872. Besides, Telecom Minister Ashwini Vaishnav will move the Telecommunications Bill 2023 for consideration and passage. This bill was passed by the lower house on Wednesday. So up your screens, we have details of the legislative business that will be taken up in both the houses of Parliament today. Up your screens, we have the legislative business that will be taken up in Rajya Sabha, the Upper House of Parliament. The 3 revised criminal laws will be taken up today. Home Minister will move these 3 revised criminal laws. To get us more on this, our correspondent Vikas Sarthi is joining us. Vikas, good morning. Now, we know that all the 3 criminal bills and the telecommunication bill were passed in Lok Sabha yesterday. Spell out more details and how does it affect the common man? In layman's terms, let us understand more from you on the bills.
Good morning, Preeti. Right, so these 3 bills have already been passed by the Lok Sabha yesterday. As far as the first bill, the Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita Second bill is concerned, this bill will provide that the provisions which have become irrelevant or obsolete with the passage of time have been removed and some new sections and some new offenses have been added in new code. So earlier, as far as the issues like terrorism, organized crime and financial frauds are concerned, these issues were not included in the Indian Penal Code. In fact, there was separate legislation to deal with those offenses. You have UAPA, MACOCA and PMLA Act. So now these offences have been included in our main criminal code and it will further strengthen the functioning of our agencies and Apart from it, in the CRPC, it has been provided that now proceedings can be done through video conferencing. Apart from it, in the CRPC also, amendment, whatever new issues have been included in our new Bharatiya Nagarik Suraksha second bill, it provides that there should be a timeline for the courts to decide a case. Like it has been said that once the arguments of both sides are concluded, a court will have to pronounce the order within 30 days. And once the order is dictated, once the order is given, it should be uploaded to the website of the court as well. So the parties are will be able to get the copy of this judgment, and they can file appeal at appellate level. So it has been the objective that a litigant must have orders in time. There should not be unnecessary adjournments. And as far as the evidence bill is concerned, now electronic evidences will be admissible in the trial courts. Like a petitioner can give his documents, his petition through digital medium, through pen drive, through a USB drive. It can be given to court, and now parties can share those documents through electronic medium as well. It has been provided in the Evidence Act. But the best part is, Preeti, that there will be a timeline for the trial courts to decide a case. There will be no adjournments for no particular reason, and once the order is dictated, it will be available to parties as soon as possible. We have seen, Preeti, in the past that the arguments once concluded, courts used to keep orders reserved for months, and at a point in time, there were issues where court have concluded the hearing, but order was not pronounced for 6 months or 7 months. So it will provide a timeline for the trial courts, and it is certainly will be beneficial for litigants as well as for the agencies.
All right, yes, it will be beneficial, and it will strengthen the judiciary as well. Also, Vikas, can we get more from you as to what all is lined up in the Lok Sabha today? Because we've seen adjournments were witnessed, and we've given a broad outline of the legislative business that will be taken up in Lok Sabha. Let us get more from you as to how do we expect the day today, given the stance of the opposition in the past few days.
Right. So two bills are lined up in the Lok Sabha. First is related to the appointments of Chief Election Commissioner and other election commissioners. It has provided that the manner in which Chief Election Commissioner and 2 other election commissioners will be appointed. Earlier, what we saw that because of a PIL in the Supreme Court quashed the earlier provisions and gave a guideline that there will be a panel of Prime Minister, Chief Justice of India, and Leader of Opposition. Now that guideline has been in fact set aside by this particular bill. It has provided that Prime Minister, a Union Cabinet Minister, and Leader of Opposition will decide the name of Chief Election Commissioner and 2 other election commissioners. So that guideline was an interim measure provided by the Supreme Court to replace those guidelines. This bill was brought. It has already been passed by the upper house, and the second bill, which is related to the registration of newspapers and periodicals. This bill has already been passed by the upper house. Now Lok Sabha will discuss it. In this particular bill, it has provided that if a person wants to register his newspaper, he can apply directly through website. Earlier, the provision was that first you will have to give your application to district magistrate. Then it used to be forwarded to the central government, where availability of title was used to check, and after that a title is provided or a application is accepted or rejected. So it was a very cumbersome process, and now with a click of mouse you can apply for registration of newspaper, and you will be able to know whether this particular title is available or not. So the whole process has been made transparent, and in a time-bound manner, you will be able to know the status of your application, whether it has been accepted or rejected on some grounds.
All right, Vikas, we leave it here. Thank you so much for joining in with those details. And here we now turn focus to the surge of JN1 variant of COVID. The spread of the variant, the virus that caused COVID in the first place, is becoming a cause of concern. Also, Health Minister Mansukh Mandavia conducted a review of health facilities nationwide, emphasizing on the importance of staying alert to emerging strains of the virus. The government has also issued a directive to states and union territories, urging them to stay vigilant as COVID cases rise, coupled with the emergence of the JN1 variant. The centre has asked the states to conduct more and more RT-PCR tests. Besides, it also asked government to create awareness on masking up and ensuring social distancing, as there should be no laxity in our preparedness. The Indian Council of Medical Research is working on genome sequencing of the new JN1 variant of COVID. The southern Indian state of Kerala reported 300 new active cases of COVID and 3 deaths on December 20th, as per the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare. The total number of active cases of COVID in the country stands around 2,669. And Sam Kadamanita from Kerala is joining us to get us more. Sam, good morning. We've told our viewers about the caution which the government has taken with regard to the spread of JN1 variant. And at the same time, 300 cases have been reported from Kerala. Get us the latest current situation from the state as of now.
Yes, hi Pradeep. The Health Minister Veena George attended the review meeting yesterday called by the Union Health Minister. In that meeting, the Health Minister informed that the situation in Kerala is under control. Kerala Health Minister Veena George said that there is no need to worry, even though the case of COVID are increasing in the state. State Health Department had taken measures to manage the present situation. Guidelines were also issued. The state medical officers conference was also instructed to take action. State Health Department and Health Education Department is ready to handle any alarming unforeseen situation. The JN1 Omicron variant was confirmed in only one sample obtained from the state. The person was cured also.
All right, Sam, also we see the sudden rise of cases in Kerala. What are the reasons that the authorities are attributing to with regard to the surge in the cases?
Kerala Health Minister Veena George said because of the tremendous spike in fever cases, COVID testing rate also increased, hence positive cases being reported as well. Meanwhile, the opposition leader V.D. Sadishan accused the government of trying to cover up the spike in COVID cases, citing reports by the Ministry of Health. He said 85% of the cases in the country had been reported from Kerala. The government is purposely hiding the real count and the situation only because of the Navakerala Sadhas have been conducting by the state cabinet. All the 21 ministers, including CM and Health Minister, traveling all over the 140 assembly constituencies, trying to showcase the achievements of the state government in their tenure. There are 140 public meetings arranged and a huge gathering of party activists is being seen. Opposition leader also mentioned that the strict restriction and imposition will be taken by the state only after the valedictory function of the Navakerala Sadhas happening on December 25th. The alarming rates will be shown to the public only after that. He also stated that the ruling party CPIM is trying to build up the public imagery before the Lok Sabha election and is gambling with the people's lives in their hands for their benefits. BJP State President K. Surendran asked the government to take immediate measures before people start panicking.
All right, Sam, any word of caution by the state authorities or any kind of a regulatory order given by the state authorities?
Yeah, presently there are no instructions imposed by the government to the public, but government gives strict instructions to the hospital authorities that all patients and all the outpatients and the inpatients and all other hospital staff should wear the mask. But there is no restrictions or any other mask wearing restrictions for public.
All right, Sam, we leave it here. Thank you so much for joining in with those details. So that was our correspondent, Sam, joining us and getting us more on the current situation with regard to the surge in COVID cases in Kerala. Let's turn focus to other updates. Recent statistics indicate that more than 558 million people worldwide natively speak in Hindi. In an attempt to encourage usage of the language in the northeastern region, India Brahmaputra Cracker and Polymer Limited organized the 73rd meeting of Town Official Language Implementation Committee in Dibrugarh, Assam.
पूर्वोत्तर क्षेत्र में आजकल हिंदी की पूरी लहर आ गई है। पूरे स्कूलों में, महाविद्यालयों में, विश्वविद्यालयों में हिंदी का पठन पाठन हो रहा है। यहाँ की जो आम जनता वो हिंदी में वार्तालाप करती है। यहाँ पर लिंक लैंग्वेज के रूप में स्थानीय भाषा के बाद अगर किसी भाषा का स्थान आता है तो हिंदी का ही आता है।
As heavy rains continue to lash parts of the southern Indian state of Tamil Nadu, various agencies stepped in for rescue and assistance work in the wake of devastating impact caused due to heavy rainfall. Indian Army, Navy, Air Force, Coast Guard and National Disaster Response Force all are working in tandem to rescue and relief work at various locations in the state. The Indian Army rescued 3 passengers from a car stuck in floodwaters, and Indian Air Force helicopters conducted relief operations, airdropping over 10 tons of essential supplies. Sarang, the Indian Air Force's helicopter air display team, airdropped food and essentials onto the terraces of homes submerged in floodwaters. Indian Coast Guard continued to deploy its assets, including 3 aircraft and 8 independent disaster relief teams, to provide relief to stranded citizens affected by widespread floods. DD News correspondent Anbar Hassan joins us from the southern Indian state of Tamil Nadu. What is the situation right now, Anbar Hassan, when we talk of the heavy rainfall spell in the state?
Many parts of Uttarakhand has been fully still not yet rested.
All right, we regret the poor connectivity in the inputs that are being received from Anbar Hassan. We'll try getting back to him again to get more on the current situation in the state. Meanwhile, let's turn focus to other updates from across the country that are making it to the headlines. 2 idols of Lord Sri Ram, made of glass fiber, have been sent to the northern Indian city of Ayodhya by a sculptor of West Bengal. Muhammad Jamaluddin was assisted by his son in making 2 idols of about 15 to 16 feet high. These 2 idols reached Ram Temple in Ayodhya ahead of the inauguration ceremony. 108 feet long incense stick is being prepared in the Indian state of Gujarat. It will be sent to Lord Ram Temple in Ayodhya ahead of the temple's opening ceremony to be held on January 22nd. The preparations in Ayodhya are in full swing. Various infrastructure projects are underway in the city as the place is expected to host lakhs of pilgrims in the coming months after the temple is inaugurated. A thick layer of fog engulfed the Indian capital city of Delhi along with cold wave on Thursday. The temperature stands at 7 degrees Celsius early morning. Despite the cold weather, individuals were spotted cycling and jogging in the city. Dense fog in isolated pockets is likely over the region for the next 4 days. For the Christmas celebrations in the Indian state of Karnataka, India's tallest Christmas tree has been set up. Towering at an impressive height of 100 feet, the colossal tree stands as the centerpiece at Bengaluru's Phoenix Mall of Asia. The colossal tree is a beacon of holiday cheer. It's adorned with enchanting decorations and features lively elves and Santa Claus spreading joy in the surrounding areas. We're heading for a short break, but still to come on this edition of DD India News Hour, talks between Hamas and Egyptian negotiators end without results in Cairo. UN vote on Gaza aid further delayed. South Korea, Japan resume high-level economic talks after nearly 8 years. And the largest ever prisoner swap done between Venezuela and the US.
We just don't bring you the news as it unfolds. We get to the heart of the matter.
We don't just present facts. We demystify complex social, political, and economic events.
We break stories that shape the world's present and future because you deserve the truth.
I am Tanvi Taneja from New Delhi.
I'm Ollie Barrett from London.
I'm Nick Harper from Washington, D.C.
Join us on DD India Global Monday to Friday at these times.
Welcome back. After the break, you're watching DD India News Hour. Let's get to more international updates. As Israeli troops continue their ground operations in Gaza, the army has discovered a network of tunnels running deep beneath the central Gaza city. As per the military, the tunnel was found on the properties registered under the name of a senior Hamas leader. The tunnels were found when soldiers secured a central area of the city in recent days, accessed by spiral staircase and an elevator up to 20 meters below the ground. The tunnels were facilitated with electricity, plumbing, surveillance cameras and heavy blast doors. Moreover, Israel has also accused Hamas of deliberately locating tunnels and other military infrastructure among civilians in order to use them as human shields.
As the Israeli army was operating in the area of Hamas leaders in the heart of Gaza city, where the political and military leadership of Hamas is situated, we uncovered an area that served as a base for terror that were located in civilian buildings. With the operation of ground forces and based on intelligence we received under the area of leadership, we uncovered a branch network of strategic underground bases.
There has been another delay in a Security Council vote for the humanitarian pause in Gaza. This latest delay comes at the request of United States, which says it needs more time to consult. Jody Jacobs gets us more from United Nations in New York.
It's been delay after delay. The initial vote on this current legally binding Security Council resolution was first scheduled for Monday, postponed to Tuesday, delayed to Wednesday, and now once again rescheduled. On Wednesday, the Council held close consultations to continue the negotiations, and these were followed by the announcement of yet another postponement to Thursday. Diplomats here in New York say there's growing frustration with the United States' repeated requests for delays. A major sticking point in this new text is the question of whether the United Nations should take over from Israel to inspect humanitarian shipments going into Gaza, something which the organization ordinarily does in other countries. Israel, we are told, wants the United States to reject this, as it would effectively leave it with no role in screening the shipments. But the UAE's ambassador to the UN, Lana Nasabeh, whose country tabled the resolution, told reporters on Wednesday they've been working long hours and believes giving it another go for additional diplomacy could yield positive results. She says she remains optimistic an agreement will be reached. Earlier this month, the US vetoed a similar Security Council resolution backed by almost all other council members. And while the intense political negotiations continue, the head of the UN's Children's Fund, UNICEF, has warned on Wednesday that there's barely a drop of safe water to drink in Gaza. Anwar reports now more than 20,000 people have been killed since the start of the war on October 7th. Jody Jacobs at the United Nations reporting for DD India.
Relentless efforts are being made to resume ceasefire in the conflict-inflicted Gaza Strip. The leader of Hamas visited Egypt on Wednesday for an intensive talk on a new ceasefire, but the meeting ended without result. As per a Palestinian official, Egypt has offered a proposal for another humanitarian truce, but the idea of a temporary solution was rejected by Hamas. According to the reports, Egyptians are still optimistic about the possibility of a breakthrough in the coming days, but they are convinced that the situation is difficult and the negotiations will be long and tough. The United States has joined hands with Israel to combat Houthis in the Red Sea region. Israeli government on Wednesday welcomed the coalition of 10 navies that was formed to repel the Houthi threats. The US-led security initiative will see Washington and 10 others, mostly NATO countries, patrol the Red Sea to deter and respond to future Houthi attacks that have so far led to major global shipping lines rerouting around Africa instead.
We, of course, welcome the international coalition of 10 navies to repel the Houthi terror pirate threat. This is a threat not just to Israel, but to global maritime trade, to the peace and security of international maritime routes. It is a global threat, and it is right that that be dealt with on a global level. And we thank our American allies for that forceful decision to secure freedom of navigation on the high seas.
Let's turn focus to the Korean Peninsula now. The top diplomats of the United States, South Korea and Japan on Wednesday condemned North Korea's recent ballistic missile launch. Also in a joint statement, the three countries urged Pyongyang to engage in substantive dialogue without preconditions. As per the statement, the United States, Japan and South Korea stand together in opposition to North Korea's continued development of its unlawful weapons of mass destruction and ballistic missile programs. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken, Japanese Foreign Minister Yoko Kamikawa and South Korea's Foreign Minister Park Jin had held a meeting. Meanwhile, the United States flew long-range bombers for joint drills with South Korea and Japan on Wednesday. The drill aimed at strengthening the country's joint response. That comes days after North Korea performed its first intercontinental ballistic missile test in 5 months. The exercise involved B-1B bombers and South Korean and Japanese fighter jets. It said that as of now, the U.S. bomber has been temporarily deployed near and over the Korean Peninsula this year, while the B-1B is capable of carrying a large conventional weapons payload. Amidst the development, North Korean leader Kim Jongun has said that Pyongyang would not hesitate with a nuclear attack when an enemy provokes it with nuclear weapons. He said that the resolute military activity conducted by the company this time was a clear explanation of the offensive counteraction mode and the evolution of the nuclear strategy and doctrine of the DPRK not to hesitate even a nuclear attack when the army provokes it with nukes. Kim made the remark as he met with soldiers under the military's Missile Bureau over its recent launching drill of an intercontinental ballistic missile. South Korea and Japan are set to hold their first bilateral economic talks since 2016. The talks led by Kang Jae-woon and Ki Shiono will assess the economic cooperation, discuss issues of mutual concern and also focus on regional and multilateral cooperation. DD India's correspondent Chris Gilbert gets us more from Tokyo.
The hitting points here are that it is the first talks in 8 years between these two countries, at least about the economic talks, and also that they're going to discuss areas of mutual cooperation and concern. It should be noted that these are not very high-level talks at the moment. It is the deputy ministers that are meeting, but the geopolitical significance is that as these two countries look to expedite a warming of relations, you have to start somewhere. We've seen the deputy foreign ministers meet, and then the foreign ministers meet, and then the leaders meet. These things do tend to, escalate up to the leaders' levels. So we're seeing the deputy ministers meet at this time, and likely they're going to be discussing, security issues, supply lines, things that could threaten the trade between the two countries. All of that is yet to be seen. It can be largely expected that, areas of mutual concern will largely focus on trade route issues, securing supply chains. There has been the ASEAN summit just here in Tokyo at the weekend, and other countries such as Malaysia brought up concerns about the security of trade routes, very vital trade routes through the South China Sea. There's also going to be talks about, potential, attacks that has been seen in the past on companies in South Korea and Japan, cyber attacks from the likes of, allegedly North Korea and Russia. So there'll be talks about preventing and working together to prevent those in the future. And also, it is a time of convenience for these two countries. The two leaders at the moment are on the same page. They're willing to work together to quickly bury historical disputes. And so economic talks, along with security talks, along with investment and other issues, are all being expedited at the moment between Japan and South Korea.
Next, we're heading for a short break on DD India News Hour, but after the break, we tell you in a first why the U.S. state of Colorado has disqualified former President Donald Trump to appear for election. We'll also show you ahead how Sydney sparkles in the Christmas season. Stay with us to know more about India's tallest Christmas tree, set up in Karnataka as a beacon of holiday cheer.
India that invents. India that innovates. India that excites. India that invites. Land of possibility. Teeming with opportunities. Watch India Ideas each Thursday, 8 p.m. only on DD India.
Welcome back after the break. You're watching DD India News Hour and I'm Preeti. A quick relook at the top stories once again. India's landmark criminal laws to replace British-era acts to be tabled in Upper House of Parliament. Nation braces up for COVID-19 subvariant JN1's surge. Health Minister reviews preparedness. Houses flooded, streets waterlogged amid heavy rain in Tamil Nadu. Indian Air Force and the Indian Navy undertake relief and rescue operations. US, South Korea and Japan call on North Korea to engage in dialogue without preconditions. Pyongyang warns of a nuclear attack. Let's get you updates on Russia-Ukraine crisis. Now, the US Congress is not expected to pass any additional funding for Ukraine before the new year, as lawmakers remain divided over support for the almost two-year conflict. The Senate has remained in Washington this week in the hope of a last-minute deal. Nick Harper reports from Washington on this.
Senate Democrats and Republicans have confirmed they do not expect a deal will get done before the end of this year, leaving Ukraine in an uncertain position heading into 2024. In a joint statement, negotiators said they were making encouraging progress, but that challenging issues remain. Namely, the Republican demand that Ukraine funding needs to be paired with additional funding to beef up security at the US's southern border with Mexico. Republicans say tougher immigration controls are needed to prevent tens of thousands of migrants crossing the border illegally every week. A visit to Washington by Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky earlier this month failed to elicit a deal, with Republicans refusing to budge despite Zelensky's in-person plea for more help. The US is Ukraine's biggest backer in terms of financial military assistance. President Joe Biden has been pushing for Congress to pass roughly $61 billion of new aid for Ukraine. Washington and Kiev have warned that Ukrainian troops are fast running out of supplies to continue their fight against Russia, with warnings that Moscow could win if new support is not approved by Congress. Nick Harper in Washington, reporting for DD India.
Venezuela has freed 10 US citizens as part of a prisoner swap with the United States. It's the largest ever prisoner swap between the two governments. Correspondent Mary Trini Mena has more details on this.
The White House confirmed the release of 10 U.S. citizens, 6 of them designated as wrongfully detained by the State Department. The swap took place in a third country. Before leaving Venezuela, all of the prisoners went through a medical examination. Among the Americans released, 2 former members of the U.S. Special Forces, Aaron Berry and Luke Denman, who were sentenced to 20 years in jail after participating in a failed attempt to overthrow President Nicolas Maduro. This swap comes after the U.S. eased oil sanctions on Venezuela in October. It's the result of many months of secret talks between Venezuelan and U.S. officials. The White House says this is a positive step forward. The current negotiations aim to secure competitive and democratic presidential elections in Venezuela in 2024. Returning to Venezuela is Colombian businessman Alex Saab, who was arrested in 2020 and accused of money laundering. Saab was facing criminal prosecution in a Florida court. Caracas celebrated the return of Saab to Venezuelan soil, saying he was kidnapped by the U.S. On Wednesday, he was welcomed by President Maduro at Venezuela's presidential palace. The Venezuelan government also freed about 24 individuals, some of them linked to the opposition. In Caracas, Maritrini Mena reporting for DD India.
French President Emmanuel Macron has defended a controversial immigration reform, describing it as a shield. Macron, in his first interview after the reform was voted into law, said the legislation passed by MPs on Monday was needed to cut an influx of illegal migrants. Macron faced cracks within his ruling alliance after Parliament passed the bill, spurring the resignation of the health minister amid tensions over the new legislation. The French president insisted the law's toughest dispositions would help counter Marine Le Pen's far-right national rally by undercutting its rhetoric on immigration.
Fighting against illegal immigration is, I think, hard to consider as a strictly right-wing policy. And when I see the popular electorate, they are in favor of that. When you live in working-class neighborhoods, you have security difficulties, sometimes immigration that is not well controlled, the consequences of which you experience. Well, you are in favor of this law.
Le programme que veut faire Madame Le Pen.
Migrants seeking entry to the United States continue to wait at an outdoor processing center in Eagle Pass, Texas, into the early hours. Following the passage of a new Republican-backed state law that gives Texas officials broad powers to arrest, prosecute and deport people who illegally cross the border, migrants have continued to arrive. U.S. border officials closed 2 rail bridges that move freight between Texas and Mexico after detecting a surge in the smuggling of migrants through Mexico by train. The move by U.S. Customs and Border Protection was the latest in a series of similar closures along the border in order to redeploy enforcement resources elsewhere. India has shown concern towards the deteriorating humanitarian situation in its neighboring country, Afghanistan. Permanent representative of India to the United Nations, Ruchira Kamboj, during a UN Security Council briefing on Wednesday, reiterated India's unwavering support for the people of Afghanistan.
Humanitarian assistance to the people of Afghanistan needs to be prioritized, given the distressing humanitarian situation in the country. India has delivered material humanitarian assistance to Afghanistan and has also continued its educational scholarships for the Afghan students. We have also partnered with various UN agencies, including the UN World Food Programme and the United Nations Office of Drugs and Crime, in their humanitarian efforts. Let me state that India reaffirms its unwavering commitment to the people of Afghanistan.
And now we take a look at election-related stories making it to the headlines from across the world. The U.S. state of Colorado has ruled that former President Donald Trump cannot appear on their ballot for election because of insurrection from January 6, 2021. Caroline Malone gets us more from Washington.
Donald Trump is disqualified from running in Colorado and to be taken off the ballot for the state's Republican Party pending an appeal. Congress previously ruled that Trump did engage in insurrection related to the Capitol riots of January 6, 2021. Legal experts say that was enough for the judges to make this ruling, and he does not yet have to be found guilty in court. But there are numerous criminal cases against Trump, including in both Georgia and Washington, D.C., for trying to overturn the last election. The Supreme Court may also decide to expedite a ruling brought by the special prosecutor about whether Trump has immunity from prosecution because he was president. It's setting up a very busy start to 2024, a year in which primary elections are kicking off in January, starting with Iowa and New Hampshire, so that each main political party, the Republicans and the Democrats, can decide on their candidate for president. Well, despite all the legal proceedings, Trump is still the frontrunner for the Republican Party and President Joe Biden for the Democrats. Caroline Malone in Washington for DD India.
Elections have been held in the Democratic Republic of Congo amid delays in the delivery of voting materials to hundreds of polling stations across the country. Some observers and opposition candidates have warned the delay could affect the credibility of the vote. DD's correspondent Chris Ochemringa has more from Kinshasa.
Voting materials like ballot papers and electronic machines arrived late to many centers in the Democratic Republic of Congo. Some locations were hours delayed in opening. The delays sparking angry outbursts from voters. Part of the problem is that the DRC is the second largest country in Africa, but it has very poor roads. And the Electoral Commission has faced serious challenges in delivering the voting materials across the country. But some opposition candidates have accused the Electoral Commission of trying to prevent their supporters from voting. About 44 million people have been registered to vote in this year's general election, which has pitted incumbent President Felix Tshisekedi against 18 other rival candidates. His main challengers are Moise Katumbi, Martin Fayulu, and Denis Mukwege. The vote is being held amidst an armed conflict in the east of the country. The provisional results are expected on December 31st. Chris Sochamringa in Kinshasa for DD India.
Russian former television journalist Yekaterina Dunstova put her name forward to stand in the country's presidential election in March. Dunstova presented documents to Russia's Central Election Commission to register as a candidate. Dunstova called in an interview last month for an end to the conflict in Ukraine and the release of political prisoners, including opposition leader Alexei Navalny. Dunstova hopes to challenge Russian President Vladimir Putin, prompting her vision of a humane Russia that's peaceful and friendly. If accepted as an independent candidate, the former journalist would next need to gather 300,000 signatures of support from at least 40 Russian regions. Supporters of Serbia's opposition protested in Belgrade for the third consecutive day after the election. Opposition leader Miroslav Aleksic told media at the protest that their lawyers had requested the annulment of election on December 17th at all levels and called on the international community to give its support. The ruling populist Serbian Progressive Party won 46.72% of the votes. SNS gained an unfair advantage through media bias, the improper influence of President Alexander Vučić, according to an international monitoring mission. The European Union and the United States urged Serbia on Wednesday to address concerns about its electoral process. The three candidates running in the next month's Taiwanese presidential election held a televised debate as the race heats up under pressure from China. Current Vice President William Lai of the Democratic Progressive Party, Hu Yui of the main opposition Nationalist Party, and former Taipei Mayor Ko Wen-je of Taiwan People's Party participated in the debate. In a live televised pre-election policy address by the three presidential candidates, the topic related to Taiwan independence and its relationship with China was the top agenda. The January 13th presidential and parliamentary elections will define Chinese claimed Taiwan's ties with Beijing. We now take a look at other stories making it to the headlines from across the world. Moscow's Red Square hosts a festive market with decorations and ice skating rinks, while Christmas market under a refurbished former stock exchange features a Christmas tree and attracts tourists annually. New Year's Day is Russia's main holiday. Brazil's Christmas market celebrated their holidays with waffles and beer. Located under the refurbished former stock exchange, the main attraction was the Christmas tree in the Grand Place Central Square, lined with Baroque, guild halls and City Hall. The market attracts tourists each year with festive sound and light display. Paris is adorned with Christmas lights and decorations as the holiday season approaches, preparing for 2024. The City of Lights, from the Eiffel Tower to the Champs-Élysées, captivates residents and tourists with festive illuminations on its famous avenues and shop windows. Junior doctors in England are starting their largest strike yet, with the British Medical Association announcing a 3-day strike. The strike is a result of a long-running dispute over pay, with doctors seeking a 35% improvement to cover inflation. Hospitals warn the strike could threaten emergency care provision during the busy Christmas break. Bogota's streets are filled with Christmas cheer as the Colombian capital prepares for the holiday season. A steam train decorated with festive lights featuring Santa Claus and the elves entertains adults and children. The city's botanical garden also hosts a night show featuring LED-lit eco-friendly animal figures. We're heading for a short break, but after the break, we tell you how stocks nosedive across the globe, registering losses as investors engage in profit bookings amid the markets hitting new highs. And France is prepared to change Olympic opening ceremony plans if security requires it, says President Emmanuel Macron. We also get your special report on India's growing stature in the sporting world and a roundup of Indian athletes' stupendous performance at Asian Games. Welcome back after the break. You're watching DD India News Hour. Let's get you updates from the world of business now. European Union finance ministers reached an agreement on Wednesday on reforms that will loosen budget rules to encourage investment while keeping debt and spending under control. The reform comes after national debt levels were pushed to new record highs by pandemic recovery programs, and with the region needing to embark on new spending to keep its climate, industrial policy and security goals on track. The deal will now be negotiated with the European Parliament before it becomes a law. The deal is the fourth reform of the EU fiscal rules called Stability and Growth Pact, meant to underpin the value of EU's single euro currency by limiting government borrowing. The agreement will, however, have no impact on EU's fiscal policy in 2024 because national budgets for next year have already been decided on the basis of guidelines agreed earlier in 2023. Stocks across the globe tumbled on Wednesday as investors engaged in some profit bookings amid markets hitting new highs. The Dow Jones and Nasdaq slipped around 1.3% and 1.5% to notch their worst sessions since October. Wednesday's session also snapped 9-day winning streaks for both. The pullback comes after a robust session on Tuesday when the Dow and Nasdaq Composite both registered 9 straight days of gains. In the Indian markets, Sensex and Nifty also ended in the red on Wednesday. At the closing bells, the Sensex was down 930.88 points or 1.3% at 70,506.31, and Nifty was down 302.9 points or 1.41% at 21,150. Japan's Nikkei and Korea's Kospi were also down, trading in the red during early hours on Thursday. Danish dock workers and lorry drivers have stopped unloading and transporting Tesla cars destined for Sweden as Danish labor union 3F joined Swedish mechanics in their strike action against Tesla. Tesla is facing a backlash from unions and some pension funds in the Nordic region as the US car maker refuses to accept a demand from Swedish mechanics for collective bargaining rights covering wages and other conditions. Jean Willardson, chairman of the 3F Transport, said that he thinks the conflict with the Nordic unions will last until an agreement is reached with Tesla. The sympathy action will only affect Tesla cars meant for Sweden. The transport of Tesla cars for Danish customers will remain unaffected. In England, junior doctors ramped up their industrial action, beginning the first walkout of their biggest strike yet, which hospitals warn could threaten emergency care provision at one of the busiest times of the year. The British Medical Association, which represents around 50,000 junior doctors, said its members will walk out on Wednesday for 3 days and again for 6 days from January 3rd to 9th in a long-running dispute over pay. Junior doctors abandoned negotiations with the government after being offered a pay rise of between 8 and 10%. They are seeking a 35% improvement. British Health Minister Victoria Atkins said that significant contingency measures had been taken to reduce disruption and added that the door remained open to the BMA to return to negotiations. Thousands of people took to the streets of Buenos Aires to protest against the government's economic shock measures in the first real test for Argentina's new libertarian president. Javier Milei, who took office earlier this month, has announced sweeping plans to reform the economy and crack down on protests in recent days. Argentina's president signed an economic reform decree that will end limits on exports and authorize measures to loosen regulations as his new government combats a severe economic crisis. In a landmark case in Britain, a U.S. computer scientist lost his bid to register patents over inventions on behalf of his AI system. Stephen Thaler, creator of Dabu's AI, wanted 2 patents in the UK for inventions devised by artificial intelligence. However, UK's Intellectual Property Office rejected the request on grounds that the inventor must be a human or a company. The similar decision was upheld by UK's Supreme Court. Well, the UK is not just the first to reject this request. Australia, European Union, United States and New Zealand have all denied Thaler's patent demand. The scientist only found success when he was granted patent in South Africa, which then became the first country ever to give patents to AI for inventions. Let's get to updates from the world of sports now. In response to heightened security tensions across Europe, French President Emmanuel Macron stated on Wednesday that France is ready to relocate the 2024 Olympic opening ceremony from the planned River Seine location if the security situation demands it. Macron revealed the existence of contingency plans, including Plan B and Plan C, emphasizing a cautious approach to potential security threats. He expressed reluctance to alter plans hastily, but acknowledged the possibility of triggering an alternative if the level of insecurity requires us to revisit the initial scheme.
As we are professionals, there are obviously plans B, C, etc. There is difference between organizing and planning, and then straight away being in a state of doomsaying and somehow no longer having any ambition. Saying let's repatriate, no.
With an expected 600,000 visitors, the ceremony is set to take place on 26 July, featuring 160 boats departing from the Pont d'Austerlitz for a 6-kilometer journey to the Pont de Lena. Tony Etanguet, the head of the organizing committee, described the event as unique and spectacular, highlighting the significance of balancing spectacle with security in these uncertain times.
Of course. But that's what a plan B is. You are in November 2015. You are 2 weeks ahead of Olympic Games. You have a series of terrorist attacks. What do? Well, you don't organize on the Seine. But you know, common sense helps. We must not go into impossible scenarios. Say, we can no longer organize anything. No, France is a great country.
In a resounding display of skill, dedication and unwavering determination, India has etched its name in the annals of sporting history by securing a monumental century of medals at the 2023 Asian Games hosted in China. As the year draws to a close, India's athletes stand tall, having clinched an impressive total of 107 medals. This remarkable feat is a testament to the nation's resilience and commitment towards excellence in the dynamic landscape of sports as well. From the track to field, the courts to arenas, Indian sports stars showcased their prowess and left an indelible mark on the Asian Games. In our next report, we take a sneak peek to India's historic run.
A 655-member Indian contingent participated at the Asian Games in Hangzhou. India finished their Asian Games campaign with a record haul of 107 medals. First time in the nation's history such an achievement has been realized. The Indian contingent amassed a total of 28 gold, 38 silver and 41 bronze medals during the course of the event. This remarkable medal haul represents India's most successful performance in a single edition of the quadrennial spectacle. The country ended at the 4th spot in the medal tally, behind China, Japan and Republic of Korea. In shooting, India surpassed its previous best of 14 medals achieved at Doha 2006 by securing 22 medals in China. Notably, 12 of these medals were earned in team events. The men's and women's cricket team and kabaddi team demonstrated their prowess, achieving double gold medals in their respective categories. India's dominance in compound archery was undeniable as nation secured all 5 gold medals on offer, with Jyoti Sureka Venom and Ojas Praveen achieving a rare treble. This success bodes well for compound archery's pursuit of a permanent place in the Olympic program leading up to the Los Angeles 2028 Olympics. In the realm of badminton, the pairing of Satvik Sairaj Rankireddy and Chirag Shetty secured India's maiden gold medal with a convincing victory in the men's double final. The Indians' badminton squad's overall performance also earned them 3 medals, marking their second best showing at the Games. Athletics events were headlined by Neeraj Chopra's successful title defense in the javelin throw. Indian track and field athletes brought home 29 medals, 6 of them gold, making it India's best returns in athletics since its very first edition in 1951. The sport was single largest contributor to India's medal tally in the 19th Asian Games. Several of these medal-winning performances have not only brought glory to India but also secured athletes' berth for the Paris 2024 Olympics. The Indian men's hockey team secured a golden finish, while boxers Nikhat Zareen, Praveen, Preeti and Lavlina earned bronze medals, thereby guaranteeing their participation in the marquee event in the French capital. Sports Desk, DD India.
India will be looking to get back to winning ways and seal the 3-match series in their favour with a comfortable victory at the Bolland Park Stadium. India had comprehensively beaten the Proteas in the first ODI thanks to the heroics of Arshdeep Singh and Avesh Khan, who helped restrict the host to a score of 117, which India managed to chase down easily in just under 17 overs. In the second ODI, South Africa pulled level in 3-match ODI series against India with an 8-wicket win at St. George's Oval. Going into the third ODI, India will look to win the match to clinch the series. All right, that's it in this edition of DD India News Hour. But let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. You can connect with us on Facebook, X and also Instagram. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Preeti Kaur signing off from all of us here in Delhi. Thanks for watching DD India News Hour.